Welcome to the Bare Essentials Podcast, where the talk is real and hibernating on your goals is not an option.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace. Today's guest does not need much of an introduction. When it comes to health and fitness, he is a household name. Throughout the years, his expertise combined with his engaging personality have allowed him to create some of the best-selling fitness programs on the market. These programs have revolutionized the home fitness industry, and to this day, they continue to have a positive impact on people's lives by helping them reach their health and fitness goals. Please join me in welcoming the creator of P90X, Mr. Tony Horton. Hi, Tony.
Hello. Hi, Charles. How are you, my man? Great to be here today.
I am fantastic. Tony, I usually I'll have my guests do a little bit of an intro, but considering that I'm speaking to you, I was gonna, I think everybody knows who you are. I figured I wanted to start just a little bit different.
Okay.
Little icebreaker. Something, that maybe even people close to you don't realize. Something
About
interesting
me.
about you.
About me.
Yeah.
About me. Ooh, look at you, Charles. You're coming in from left field, but I'm all right with that. I will not be thrown off. Not everybody knows who I am. Every once in a while, you run into somebody who goes, "Tony, who? P90, R90Y? What are you talking about?" But yeah, I mean, 11 plus million copies. I guess a lot of people do. But I would say that I'm still to this day still evolving when it comes to me personally dealing with my stress and being more present and being more grateful. Those things are all sort of intertwined. Those are areas where I still need some work, and I try to work on them every day. But my genetics are not built for being calm and being patient and being understanding and all that kind of thing. So these are things that are important, right? Patience is a virtue. We all want to be virtuous, I would imagine. And so, it's kind of handed down from the Hortons. You know what I mean? The English and the Irish were a pretty aggressive group, and handed down from my grandfather and my father and I. And then, my great grandfather apparently was a pip, put it that way. And so, I'm much more mellow than all of them, and I don't have a lot of the predetermined opinions about others that they had. I'll put it simply like that. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I'm much more open-minded. I'm much more thoughtful. I think I'm a better listener than they certainly maybe were, but I'm a work in progress, man, for sure.
Tell you what, you start right off with making me feel better about myself, because all the things you just named are things that I continue to work on to this day. So it's nice to hear, actually.
Where are you from, Charles?
Tony, I'm based in Philadelphia, actually. Philadelphia,
good, buddy.
Yeah.
Philly, Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, the East, the Northeast. We're a very opinionated, stressed out group of folks up there. That's partly why I moved to Cali, man, to help me chill out a little bit. Didn't really work initially, but it's helped me since.
I definitely know what you're talking about. And, I just turned 50 this year, and I feel like I'm finally the calmest I've ever been in my life. So keep it going.
Beautiful, bro. That's great news.
So, Tony, I wanted to talk a little bit about, to start off, like, people see you now and like what you are and what you can do. Like, could you talk a little bit about your athletic background growing up?
Didn't have one, really. My dad was a super jock. He was the captain of the football, baseball, basketball team at Tabor Academy. And his dad pushed him pretty hard. You were in the win column or the loss column, and then you did whatever you could to be in the win column as much as possible. But when you were in the loss column, I mean, you made that kind of a life and death situation back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. When my dad was kind of coming up. And then he didn't like the experience at all, so he backed off on me completely, which I would have liked a little bit more guidance. He just was like, he didn't know how to find the happy medium for me. And my dad was on the road a lot with his work, so I didn't really see my dad Monday through Friday. I saw him on the weekends, but and then I was the only boy and the oldest, so I didn't have any male siblings to kind of kind of work on my athleticism. So I played all the ball sports and hockey, you know what I mean? Basketball, football, baseball, and hockey. That was it. There was no ninja, there was no parkour, none of that stuff existed back when I was growing up. And so they were all team sports. And, you know, I was a small kid. I didn't know how to train. I didn't know how to prepare myself. Either I was good at these things or I wasn't. A lot of kids that were on those teams were naturally pretty athletic from the get-go. Maybe they had, you know, parenting that helped that out or whatever. I just didn't have it. So I went out for the tennis team, didn't make it. I went out for the basketball team, didn't make it. I played Babe Ruth and stuff like that. And I was okay at times as I got older, but then, you know, it was time to leave because I was too old. And then I made the football team in high school, but I didn't play. I mean, I was a tackling dummy during the week. I wasn't really, you know, I would play when the score was like 85-0. That's when they would put me in. And so it was very frustrating, you know what I mean? And so when I went to college, I took a weightlifting course because I thought, okay, this might be a fun thing to do. And it all came down to the coach. Like my high school football coach was not a dreamy dude at all. He was not a good person. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to get his name in the paper and he wanted, you know, it was all about the wins. And he had me on the team just so that other players could run over me, which was, I guess, I don't know. I was black and blue the entire time during that time. But I took this weightlifting course and the teacher, coach, mentor, whatever he was just funny. He was just a funny, relatable. He was probably maybe only 10 years older than us. You know, he had some sort of a kinesiology or exercise science degree, and he was just teaching us how to lift weights. And, you know, there was Nautilus back then and the cable machines and dumbbells and hack squats and some ab stuff, you know what I mean? And I just fell in love with it partly because of, you know, it was the way he broke it down. It's really simple. You know, I mean, here's what supersetting is, what pyramiding is, you know, here's what compound exercises look like. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science really. And I just gravitated to it and I got an A and those grew and I had pecs maybe for the first time. And my GPA went up that month because obviously I was pulling in a lot of oxygen that was going into my brain that releases all those, you know, powerful neurotransmitters inside of my brain. Oddly enough, who knew? I just paid attention more and I showed up to class more. And it was like, I just thought it was coincidence. I was in a better mood. You know what I mean? It was really funny that way. And then I came out to California and, you know, I was a member of 4 gyms after the first couple of years. Each gym one was an aerobics gym, you know, because it was filled with women. I thought that's a cool thing. Let's go in there. And then I was a member of World Gym, which is where Arnold and Lou Ferrigno would work out just because I can join the same gym that Arnold and Lou are in. Well, yeah, man, I'm going in there. And there was another one called Mesoplex and another one that was, you know, a little different than that. And whenever, depending on my mood or the crowd I wanted to be around, and I was just training because I had an agent. I was a young actor, and my agent said, you know, you're looking, because after I took that weightlifting course in college, my sophomore year and then junior and senior year, it was all, you know, drinking beer and smoking weed mostly. And it was the 70s, man. And then I came out here and I went, I got to get going. And the agent said, get in shape. So I just started to, and you know, I still played hoop and I still played tennis and I still played sandlot football. I love the ball sports, but I didn't get introduced to a lot of the things I'm doing now. Like probably in the last 10 to 15 years, a lot of the way I train now is completely different than the cardio and the weightlifting, which is what most people are still stuck in that modality. You know what I mean? Which is nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But there's so much more out there that is more athletic, more skill based. And that's where I live now, especially as a guy who's going to be 64 in a month. Yeah, that's kind of my story.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tony, I always look to you as far as age. And I say, you know what, I want to look like that when I'm 64, 65. I don't look like that at 50, but it's definitely something to shoot for. So when you tell that story, did you start out as a trainer on purpose or was it more of an accident?
No, total freak show. Not even on my radar. You know, when I came out to Cali, I didn't have a job. I ran out of money in Boulder, Colorado. I was a trained pantomime, and I used to do these very irreverent, explicit, animated mime shows back in Rhode Island, which were a big hit. Stuff that I was on stage now, I'd probably be arrested. I mean, honestly, it was really pretty gross and pretty hilarious at the same time. You know what I mean? Forget about George Carlin or what was the other guy? Used to get arrested all the time doing stand-up.
Richard Pryor?
No, Pryor. Yeah. I mean, it was more physical though. Like I was a physical comic I wasn't a wordsmith. I mean, I'm more of a wordsmith now than I was back then, but I just did these really outrageous physical things on stage, which for a college audience was great. You know what I mean? And they were all drunk or high watching me be, and I would crank the Beatles or this French acid jazz musician named Jean-Luc Ponty. Google that, play some of that music. It's cool stuff. And I would mix these two songs and I'd crank up the music and I'd get up on stage. I do these wild things. That's how I started to make a living initially. But then I came out here, and then when I ran out of money, which was all the time, I would throw on the mime makeup and the outfit, and I put the hat down on whether in Westwood near UCLA or on the Santa Monica Pier or the Huntington Pier or the Hermosa Pier, whatever pier I could get on. And I'd make whatever amount, as much money as I could. I would usually crap out around $25. And then I would go to the local liquor store at the corner where I lived, and I would just buy yogurt and Cheerios because I could get a lot of that. And I would eat yogurt and Cheerios for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and seemed enough. It's like, nutrition, whatever. It's food. I'll eat it, and it keeps me alive. And then I was waiting tables, and I was an assistant manager at the Oak Tree men's clothing store, and I was a bartender, and I would go to Vegas on these with like 50 to 100 other actors, and I would do these, like these mime statue things at big events. You know what I mean? I would play the human Oscar standing there, you know what I mean, frozen for 2 hours on the end of a stage. Whatever paid me money, man. I was a go-go dancer at Chippendales for a summer. I mean, whatever. I was a pretty good dancer because, I was a young kid with a speech impediment. So the only way I could kind of the only way I thought I was relatable was by being, going to the high school dances and popping and locking and, doing all that stuff and whatever, or being funny, you know what I mean? And that took me out of my kind of nervous general state of mind, which is what I was in most of the time. So I had every odd job in the world. And the only reason why I became a trainer is because my agent said, get in shape. So I joined these gyms. And at that point I had the miming job, and I had the carpentry things, but I had a job as a PA at 20th Century Fox, over on Pico Boulevard here in LA. It's a big movie studio, and movie stars everywhere. And I got a job as a PA for Julia Phillips, and her husband, her then ex-husband, had produced Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Taxi Driver with De Niro, and The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. And like, wow, this is really cool. So I'm running all over town, whatever, feeding the cat and doing laundry and delivering scripts and making coffee and whatever the heck they'd have me do. And her partner at that time was formerly in the music industry, guy by the name of Harlan Goodman. And Harlan was noting my transformation. Like, he hired me as a pudgy, skinny kid. And then about 4 or 5 months in, I was a more muscular, less pudgy, skinny kid. And I didn't tell him what I was working out in these various gyms. I was just, I'd go to the gym and I go to work, and that was it. And the job was super stressful because, you're trying to make a film and it's just not easy. And they were having a very tough time of it. I didn't know, but, they had all these projects, and none of these movies got made. And then, then he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm working out. And he said, I got to lose some weight. So he had about 35 to 40 pounds to lose. So he and I, before we both went to work for Julia, who was pretty crazy, would go into our buddy's garage gym, and I would train him in the morning. I work out with him a lot of times or whatever, and then after people were noticing his changes, I was training like a secretary on the lot, and I was training one of the people, friend of his. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm a trainer now. I don't know. I wasn't certified. I didn't know what I was doing. But I mean, I was a member of 4 different gyms. I was I was watching Lou, and I was watching Arnold, and I was watching these aerobic instructors. And I was, learning just kind of by being there and witnessing it all. And then he lost all this weight, and he just got sick and tired of trying to make a movie, and he couldn't. So he went back to East End Management on Sunset Boulevard, and they managed Tom Petty and Billy Idol and Tracy Ullman and Rob Lowe, I think was their little quiver of performers and actors. And so I quit. When he quit, I quit. I couldn't work with her anymore without him there, because he was my buffer. I mean, she'd fire me every Friday night, and he'd call me up and rehire me every Sunday night. It was like, you're not fired. I know you didn't change the light bulb at the bottom of the driveway. It's not the end of the world. Just come to work. Whatever. And so, and now I'm a carpenter, handyman, mime, trainer, right? I had all these different jobs all at once. And then one day, 40 pounds down, he's walking down the hallway, he crawled back on his hands and knees to get his old job back. at East End. And Tom Petty's walking down the hallway in the opposite direction. He's got a cigarette because Tom liked to smoke cigarettes. And he looked at Harlan. He said, Harlan, holy crap, you look fantastic. I'm going on tour in 4 months and I'm fat. Nobody likes a fat rocker, you know. And Harlan says, call Tony Horton. So my roommate, Bob, who I came out to California with in 1980, picked up the phone. And we had some pranksters downstairs, JP and Jim, who lived down below, guys from San Diego. He said, hey, man, there's a guy saying he's Tom Petty. And I went, it's not Tom Petty. Hang up the phone. Click. So my roommate, Bob, hung up the phone on Tom Petty. He called back seconds later. Hey, we got disconnected. My name is Tom Petty. I'm looking for, and Bob looks at me and goes, dude, I think it's Tom Petty. And I write about it in my book, The Big Picture. But so I pick up the phone and it was Tom. And hey, man, and he told me the whole story about going on tour. So I went to his house literally the next day. And, this is a groovy place in Woodland Hills, the view of the whole valley, all the gold and platinum records on the wall, and met his wife, and his kids were like, Kim and Adria were 3 and 5 or 6 or something. They were just little tots, and I had him 4 months and I got him in killer shape, and he went off on tour. And then he called my parents' house in Rhode Island. I was there for the 4th of July. How the hell he got that number? I do not know. This is before cell phones. There's no such thing. And, my mother comes running down the hall. Tom Petty's on the phone for you. As I ran, hey, I'm getting fat again. You want to come on tour with me? So it was just a great relationship. And he was out on tour and he was wearing sleeveless, like he was wearing a vest with no shirt. And he had all his shirts, he was cutting off the sleeves because he was, and everybody was just like, and his sets was strong and his voice was strong. And he was killing it, man. And so then Billy Idol called me, and then Annie Lennox, and then Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then Lindsey Buckingham, and then Stevie Nicks, and then the Boss. I trained Patty Scalfa for a while because the Boss was like, he had his guy in Jersey, he would work out by himself with his book, right? And then I went to Bruce's concert at the Staples Center, where the Lakers used to play. Because I was training his wife, so I got pretty good seats. And so that night, apparently, because my buddy was there, the reason why I got that gig is because my buddy was their assistant and chauffeur kind of combo guy. And I guess they were in bed, Patty and Bruce, and they were flipping channels. And there I was in an infomercial. And then I guess Bruce turned to Patty and went, hey, isn't that your trainer, Tony Horton? And Patty goes, yeah. Can I work out with him? You know what I mean? So my buddy Tom, who worked for him, said, Bruce saw you all on the TV and wanted to work out with you. So that was pretty funny. And so he and Patty comes out in street clothes that day. I'm like, she's forgot that we're training or whatever. She comes out and says, hey, do you want to work with Bruce today? I've already worked with Idol and Annie Lennox and Petty, but man, it was the Boss, right? And we went to his gym. And hung out, and I turned him on to some stuff that he had never done, like flexibility stuff and yoga stuff. And I got him a heart monitor, and I really, I turned him on to some, because he was just lifting weights, which is great. But I got him into some other stuff. And so whenever they came to town, because they lived in Jersey, they had this place here too. So here's a long-winded answer. That's how it all got started. But I was still broke. I was still, living in a van down by the river, or I should say a crappy little apartment in Santa Monica with a broken down car. But that's, I was driving all over town, Malibu, Culver City, Hollywood, the Valley, like ding, 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 living on power bars between client and client, getting up at 5, coming home at 9. It was better than, doing mime at the pier. That's for sure.
I got to tell you, when you were telling that story, I forgot for a couple seconds that I was trying to host a show here. So apologize if it looked like I was not paying attention.
No, you know what? You're a great listener, Charles. So
And when you said about your mom running down the hall, right? I was envisioning my mom, because I told her I was interviewing you, and I knew about Tom Petty. I told her that, and, no offense to the fitness stuff, right, Tony? But the Tom Petty, that, my mom was like, oh, tell me more about that. So, wow, that's pretty.
I could write a book. Everyone's going to have to pass away before I write this book, though, I'll tell you. But
I'll read it if I'm still around. Trust me. That's
you will be. You're amazing. Only 50. You're a kid,
right? So when you telling that story and talking through it, though, right? So obviously you're fit, right? But it almost like so early on, would you say that it was more important to maybe look the part as opposed to really like knowing about fitness, right? Was it more important in your case to actually look the part, to look in shape, and that kind of helped you get some of these clients?
Yeah, that helped. That helped that I looked at for absolutely. I mean, if I was a lot of trainers on pro teams, just like, wow, man, what happened to you in the last 20 years? They just look like hell. And back in those days, I was working out it was all ego based. It was all about aesthetics. Like, how big is my chest? What do my arms look like? Do I have a six pack? What's my booty look like? Well, how about my quads? I mean, I had quads like tree trunks because I was in the gym for 2.5 hours just doing, leg extensions and hack squats and leg curls and calf raises. And, I was just in there, and I had a little book and I was tracking my, more getting bigger and bigger. But it was all about getting big. And everybody's like, how do I get bigger? Are you on a professional football team, or do you play lacrosse, or why do you want, like, these 42-year-old fathers of four? Why do you want to be big, dude? Like, you're married, you got kids. How about being healthy? So the healthy thing came decades later for me. And when I had these celebrities, right, they were especially the rockers and people that were, pretty active on films. It was about making them look a certain way. So there was all that. And then there was also their stamina, right? Sort of their cardiovascular health. So I mean, anytime there was a heavy bag, I get a heavy bag for these clients and have them. Petty hit a heavy bag. Idol had a heavy bag. Steven Stills had a heavy bag. And then we would just do a lot of like, little, I'm going to say like HIIT training type routines for these folks on top of the, just because I wanted to get them lean, I wanted to get them strong. I wanted their stamina, the heart, lungs, and legs to be strong while also looking aesthetically good. And then later on, just for me personally, I still like having a decent looking body, but I'm more about health and wellness now. I mean, that is I would say it went from 80% looks, 20% health, and it's flip flopped now. It's more about 80%. That and then looking good. Yeah. I mean, today I supersetted some bicep curls with 2 other guys, which was like, we're doing 10 reps, put it down, 10 heavier, 10, right? That's ain't nothing about health and wellness there. It's all about that. You know what I mean? So it still exists, and that's what I try to do with clients. And a lot of my, I don't train anybody. I don't train one-on-one anymore. I mean, every once in a while, somebody will call me up and I'll do somebody else a favor. But yeah, that's how I train. That's why like this new program, The Power of Four, is mildly similar to P90X in that there's, P90X, we had this thing called muscle confusion, which is just a made up term that came from Billy Idol. Billy Idol used to call me Muscle Confucius. Oh, he would do this whole thing. Oh, Muscle Confucius today. What do we have? You know what I mean? And so, and then from that term, I was like, let's call it muscle confusion, which is basically like a form of what Jack LaLanne was doing, which was something called periodization training. Just working on the body parts that you didn't crush the day before. You know what I mean? Like, let some parts heal while you do other parts so that you can always be active and exercising 5 to 7 days a week. I mean, I'll work out 19 days in a row, but some workouts are at 50. Like today's workout was mellow. My shoulders and arms routine until sort of the cobwebs were coming off. And then toward the end, we went after it. But the first half of today's workout was like, let's lift some weights and be mellow and do some flies and whatever, do like a 15-second handstand, throw that in once in a while. I just listen to what I need more. I mean, I have a general plan, and I walk into the room, and the same thing. Like when I created the Power of Four, like I gave them stop options, which never existed in any fitness program ever. You know what I mean? Oh, it's an hour and 10 long. You can stop at 20 minutes. You can stop at 40 minutes. Just stop and go to the end and do the cool down, because that's all you can handle. That's all you have time for. That, you know what I mean? I don't want you to overtrain. I don't want you to undertrain. And then I have powering up and powering down. Like, today I feel strong. I'm going to get after it a little bit. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to do more reps. I'm going to do more range of motion, all that kind of thing. Or I'm going to power down because I understand that that's better than doing nothing. You know what I mean? And just common sense, I mean, that's why I'm, as a 64-year-old in a little while, I'm relatively unscathed. I got a little sciatic thing going right now that bums me out, but that, these things happen. Probably because I ran 7 miles too fast the other day. Oops. Whatever. But I got a massage at 3:00, baby, and he's going to get in there and just grind away. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, hopefully you'll enjoy that. I definitely want to get into a little bit more about P90X and some of the programs later on. Before I got to it, though, I did want to ask you, I think one of the things I've noticed about you over the years, and I think sometimes people mistakenly assume that the way a person is, it's just, oh, they're born that way. That's just them. Would you say, did you make like a conscious effort to work on how you presented yourself to others? And was that really important in your success?
Well, the reading and writing and arithmetic that I got from school only took me so far. I mean, it's important that I know how to read and write. Everything else just seemed like a waste of my time. I don't, it's not like I'm using algebra recently. You know what I mean? And I think most kids would benefit more kind of based on their interests, whether it's art or science or music, or, get kids through the basics. But then, I never took a school. I never took a class in school. I didn't even know they were available on how just to become a very high functioning human being in the real world. And that all came, I think, the summer between my junior and senior year, when I read my first personal development book. Like, what is this thing? I think it was this thick little, I think it was called Looking Out for Number One. I can't even tell you what the author was. And the next book was the same author, called Your Erroneous Zones, which was like a weird thing. And I just fell in love with these books because there was all this intel that I had never heard before. I didn't get it from my parents, didn't get it from school. It just, a lot of it had to do with finances. A lot of it had to do with relationships. Some of it, a little bit here and there, had to do with health and wellness and diet. And I was like, where the hell was all this when I was between 1st and 12th grade? It didn't exist. You know what I mean? And I think for a lot of people in certain parts of the country, it still doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they're getting this intel too late. And because their heels are so, ground into their way of thinking, it's like, what's wrong with pizza? Why can't I have a Dr. Pepper? And that's stupid. I got to eat sprouts now and steamed vegetables. You know what I mean? Like, people have these really myopic viewpoints on how to live a healthier and happier life, but some people go, what I'm doing ain't working. So this Tony Horton guy, he looks like he's doing pretty good for an old man. Maybe I'll listen to him for a bit, or some other trainer, or some other technique or method or strategy. There's a lot out there. You just have to gravitate to something and stick to it, And so, I just, they're all back here, man. There's a lot of them here. They're here, and there's another bookshelf over there you can't see. And I just, I'm just a bit of a reader. I mean, there's a book here that I finished recently. Where are you, man? Like this book changed me right away. Spark, The Revolutionary Science of Exercise in the Brain, John Rady's book. John Rady has become a friend. He spoke at one of my Paragon experiences. He saw me, my sister took a picture of me reading his book on the beach, and he found me. And I used to be a 3 to 4 day a week guy and thought that was okay. And then when you read this book, you go, no. Most people are in survival mode. They're doing all these things all the time, very consistently, the sleeping and the eating and the paying of the bills and the mortgages, and what I mean? And they're surviving, and they're still getting, they're still out of shape and everything else. And he taught me that the foundation of who we are as human beings has got to be a regular exercise. And that's got to be 5 to 7 days a week. And so I just don't miss days anymore, because before I was like, why am I so moody? Maybe I'm bipolar. No, I'm benefiting from the norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, brain-derived neurotropic factor from days when I exercise, but 24 hours later, it's gone. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't work out that day. And then, like, why am I in a bad mood? Why don't I feel like it's because you should have been working out that day too, right? So the more you do, the better you get. If you're doing things sporadically, if you're working out 3 days a week, that means there's more days off than there are on, and you're probably getting 12, 13 days in a month. Try to go to work 12 days out of the month. Try to eat 12 days out of the month. Try to sleep 12 days out of the month. You're going to have some problems. So if you want to thrive instead of survive, then you do this thing all the time. This book, Breath, which has been out, not that long, James Nestor's book, Breath. I mean, because of this book, I tape my mouth every night before I go to bed. I take medical tape and I go wham, because my wife loved that. Right? So I had sort of a mild sleep apnea. I'm not saying the tape cured it, but what happens is when you shut that down, you got to use this amazing conch shell called your sinus. And now I have more energy, and I don't have my breath isn't bad anymore, and all kinds of really good things. So I'm a big fan of learning from experts and just doing what they say. And And then eventually, after getting certified and looking into, various, I've been vegan for over a year. I've been a vegan since March. I tried 2 other times. It was too much, gluten-free pretzels and not enough vegetables. And I don't have inflammation in my knees and my shoulder anymore.
Wow.
I don't know. You know what I mean? And do I miss the steak? Yeah. But I mean, my wife had some steak the other day, and it was medium rare, and she cut it open and she stuck it in my face, and I ate it. You know what I mean? I was in Jackson Hole and there was wild salmon on the menu, so I ate it. So I'm not pious about this stuff, right? I'm 98% plants, and every once in a while, screw it. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I live, and that seems to be working for me.
Wow, that's amazing. I get, Tony, I think again, you just proved, walking through that. I think you're always somewhat of almost not a step ahead, but you're just always like pushing people to just evolve, like you had said. And I think that because you're so relatable and you present such a good image, I think that it becomes really, really important, and people definitely will do what you do things and try things that you're saying. So P90X, how did it come about? Well,
when I was running around town and I was training all these people, I was going to different acting classes, scene study classes. I was a member of Second City, LA. Everybody knows about Second City, Chicago. It went under after about a year. I was, attempting stand-up comedy with some friends of mine, doing like little crappy gigs in little cafes in funky parts of town. And that was just something I thought I would end up doing eventually. I just thought I'd be an actor or a performer of some kind, or a comedian, or I don't know. The training thing was this really great way to make some money and hang out with superstars and movie stars and rock stars and stuff. So I was kind of living in 2 different worlds. So I was honing this skill that thickened my skin, that improved the quality of the way I disseminate things, working on being a bit of a wordsmith. That's important when you're working with Tom Petty or Billy Idol or something. You have to be relatable. And I already had a built-in sense of humor based on all my insecurities as a kid, and I had that, and I worked really hard at overcoming my speech impediment, that every once in a while, when I'm kind of fired up or tired, it'll come out. I've even had it happen to me on stage. And then I have a whole predetermined bit that I do when it happens, so that I can get a laugh, so I can get back to what I was saying. And that just, when you're reading somebody else's words, or you're writing comedy, or you're doing improv in front of an audience of 500 people, and you're having to, right? Being a trainer is relatively simple. So I was doing that. And then, then there was this client of mine that was going to hire this young guy by the name of Carl Deichler out of Philly. And Carl was a go-getter, and he was very ambitious, and he was very bright, and he had a lot of great ideas. And then, I was training this client, and then he introduced me to Carl, and then Carl would kind of jump into some of these workouts, and we just hit it off right away. And we went on ski trips together, and we went, and hung out with mutual friends and just having fun. And so Carl worked for this client of mine who was kind of a big shot. He was basically I think it was the lead attorney for this infomercial company, and Carl began to work for them. And so Carl was doing infomercials for stupid things like pantyhose that don't run and at-home LASIK eye surgery. I made that one up. And then Carl started out in fitness when he was Philly. He created 8-minute abs. That was his thing. And so like, who's this guy out of Philly? Nobody's having that kind of success outside of New York or LA. So they just gobbled him up, and they brought him to LA, and he said, hey, it sounds like, because Guthrie Renker was the company. He said, I'll do that. And then at some point, this is the long-winded story, but Carl told my client, he said, hey man, I want to do fitness. And then, at that point, Carl and I were hanging out for quite some time. So we did this little thing on the side. I don't know, Carl raised some money. It was called Great Body Guarantees. It was great abs guaranteed, great arms guarantees, great whatever it was. And he paid me $2,000 or something, which was good. Like, I'll take that $2,000. And I developed these 15 or 20-minute routines. We ran out of money. We were in a gym, ran out of money. And then we would go to the beach and throw some mats out on the beach. And without permits, we would shoot the rest of it out in the fog on on a June day. And that was just to me another job, you know what I mean? Like all the other ones I had. And it ended up doing pretty well, which in the infomercial industry, that's rare because there's so many of these products that come and go and you never see them again. And so at that point, Carl said, well, I think I'm going to raise some more money based on the success of what we did. We want to kind of go next level. And then Carl said, like, what are the sequences that you do with Petty and Idol and Springsteen and all these guys? Like, how do you get them in great shape? And I kind of explained the thing. He goes, can you recreate that in front of a television with maybe some dumbbells and bands? And I said, yeah, sure. And it was called Power 90, and which was pre P90X. And so I lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. It used to be 2. And then I took on the studio next door. I thought, this is it. I'm going to live here the rest of my life. But it was in a bad part of town. My cars got broken into all the time, but it was rent control. So whatever, I didn't really assume that I'd ever get any further than that. And then Power 90 went out. And at that point I had royalties, which I had never had before. Carl's like, let me give you some royalties and give you a percentage. And, you're the guy creating this thing. And it blew up. I mean, not P90X big, but I paid off all my credit cards. I had about six or eight of them that were maxed out. And then I was putting money in the bank and, whatever. And I had enough money to buy a 5-bedroom house. You know what I mean? I didn't have any furniture. I didn't have any. So I lived in this big old house with no furniture. And, mortgage, this is a nightmare every month. But the royalty checks were still coming in. It was all very doable. And then it was a decision, like, what should we do next? And I mean, to Carl's credit, he said, let's do something harder than Power 90. Let's just take it up a notch. And he wanted to do sort of a mastery program that was like just 6 routines. You do every other day, you do the same thing and you get better at it and track. I go, no, man. And we had a whole discussion about it. We even made a little documentary about it. I said, we need to double it. We need to have 12 with martial arts, with an abs specific thing, with a full-on hatha hour-and-a-half yoga. And it's like, what? But he trusted me, man. And so he gave me almost 8 or 9 months to develop it. And we shot it thinking we were going to sell, a couple, because who the hell wants to work out that hard, that long every day? And the first year it didn't do anything. I mean, it just, the sales were really dead, but we were so proud of what it was. And we just thought it was so unique that we kept changing the offer. Like, 3 payments of this and 4 payments of that, of $19.95 or $29.95. And then finally, this is right at the advent of the internet. I mean, the internet was new and people were doing, were shooting on VHS tapes, the footage of what they were doing. And they were taking before and after pictures that we weren't even asking for. And then we used those before and after photos and the video of them doing the routines. We took out all the test group stuff and we put real people in there, and forget it, man. It was the royalty checks were numbers I didn't know existed. You know what I mean? Wow. And so I got to put furniture in that house. I got to buy me a Mercedes Benz, and then I got to buy another house in Jackson Hole, and then I got to put more money away. And it just, it was free. It was wild. It was just really, it was Christmas every month. It was Christmas. You know what I mean? And so, because people were so dedicated and they loved it. And now here it is, 20 years later, and people are still doing it, man. They're doing P90X, P90X2, P90X3, 22-minute hardcore, all these programs over there at Beachbody. Now I left Beachbody 4 years ago. We just couldn't come to an agreement on the next contract, sadly. Kind of a weird way to treat me after all those years, but business is business, man. So now I'm with, I got my own supplement line, which I would have never gotten there, called Power Life. I'm on Tonal now. I've got the number 1 and number 2 programs on Tonal, which is like, I'm still relevant after 300 years, which is amazing. That's an amazing product. It's from 2050. It's from the future. Other really tremendous trainers on that platform. Really fun going to work for both these companies. They're just really amazing. And then we have the Power of 4, which is really a pet project for Sean and I. None of that, which I could have done with Beachbody, because they were like, you know what I mean? Here's what you're going to do, and here's how you're going to do it. Okay. And here's what we're going to pay you. Okay, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Which is too bad. It was an amazing run. Without them, without Carl, there's no way I'd be where I am. So it was a blessing. But everything, like Tom Brady doesn't play for the Patriots anymore, does he? You know what I mean? So people come and be like, every time I watch the basketball season, it's like people are swapping. That's just life. That's just business. So I'm very blessed. 63 going on 64, that people still want to have something to do with me. You know what I mean? Most people my age are retiring. I don't know what 64 feels like. It feels better than 34 most days. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on,
Yeah. And Tony, that leads right into the next thing I want to talk to you about. I mean, on the podcast, I talk a lot about mindset and the way we all, as human beings, we react to adversity, right? Like, we're not immune to it, any of us, even somebody like you who's had a lot of success. Could you talk a little bit about some of the adversity you recently were just faced with? Believe it was Ramsay Hunt syndrome, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. October 2017 was brutal. Very tough time for me. Probably the lowest of lows in my life. When you're in the middle of it, though, it's like the frog in the frying pan. You just deal. You know what I mean? You deal or you die. I felt like I was dying most days, because I couldn't, my vision, my smell, my taste, and my balance were all affected all at once, all the time. You know what I mean? So much for eating, so much for sleeping, so much for drinking, so much for exercise, so much for driving your car, so much for making a living. It was all about staying in bed and trying not to vomit all the time. You know what I mean? Because it was this Ramsay Hunt is basically shingles in your ear, and there's the 5th, 6th, and 7th nerves that are going into your brain that affect how you see things. Everything always smelled like secondhand smoke. It smelled like I was in a cigarette factory all the time, every day. My ears, what tinnitus or tinnitus or whatever the hell they pronounce it. All the time. Wow. And when I stood up, the world was like this. I mean, like, wow, just kill me, man. Horrible, horrible, horrible. It wasn't for my wife and all the King's horses and all the King's men. They had a really tough time putting me back together again. It's just one of those things that you just got to suck it up, do what you can do, go to the acupuncturist and the acupressurist and the otorhinolaryngologist and the physical therapist and getting dressed and getting into the car and then the thing and the curves and the traffic and the light and the sounds. I think somebody described it, it's like you're overdosing all day for weeks on end. That's what it felt like, constantly. And so blah, blah, it's like chemo. It's like overdosing and chemo at the same time for weeks. And then very subtly, week after week, month after month, mild improvements. Like I had Bell's palsy for like 4 to 6 weeks. So the whole right side of my face was melted. I was like this guy, right? So I had to drink through a straw. This is terrible, dude. And it was as a result of stress, all around us, stress, war in Ukraine, stress, the pandemic, stress, political strife, stress, work stress, traffic stress, kids stress, parental relationship, spousal stress, all the time. And for me, I was going through the contract stuff with Beach Island. I'm like, oh my God, this is over. This is over. Wow. That was creepy and scary because that wave, every wave comes to shore, right? And it was time for that one to come to shore with nothing else lined up. You know what I mean? Thank God I had a year-long contract where they were paying me for like another 9 months. I had 9 more months. And so it was time to kind of hit the streets and find out. So that freaked me out because I just couldn't believe that was happening. Then I had friends that were at the Vegas shooting and they were sitting there watching a show and people on the left and right of them were dying, running for their lives. Like I just couldn't, I wasn't there. They all survived, but I don't know. I was traumatized by that. And then the following day after the Vegas shooting, Petty dies. I get the call, Tom's gone. Oh. What is going on? And then I got a little headache, and then I got a burning, and then I started throwing up, and then I got my ear looked like somebody hit me with a shotgun, and then I was down bad for 3 months, and then gradually for that first year, I wasn't doing very well, and it took here it is, probably in October it'll be 5 years, and I still have so after the Ramsay Hunt goes away and the shingles heal, you're kind of stuck with fried nerves because nerves aren't like a cut or a bone, right? Or whatever, or a cold. There's a predictable time frame in which those things will heal. But nerves, maybe never. Hard to tell. Can't say. Sorry, pal. So a lot of people who get Ramsay Hunt syndrome who still suffer from bilateral vestibular hypofunction, which is the Parkinson's thing inside of your head. Never get over that. Never, ever. And a lot of them, the Bell's palsy never goes away. And I just, like, if I could walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes, I would. If I could do 2 push-ups, I would. And quite often when I tried to do those things early on, I was down for the count. I was vomiting and going back to bed for 6 hours, 8 hours in the middle of the day. It was just, it was hard. Yeah. But I mean, everything that I knew, I just kept applying it as much as I could. You know, like I remember going to the gym for the first time, like, okay, where I was actually going to do a routine. I think I could do like 15 push-ups and 7 pull-ups. And I used to do 50 push-ups and 35 pull-ups, you know what I mean? So I had a good base, which was good, but I lost 25 pounds. So I lost a lot of muscle. Yeah, I looked pretty bad and I felt pretty bad, but you know, here I am, ta-da.
Yeah, and again, it just, I mean, it shows, right, Tony? You're definitely, none of us are immune to it. And the fact that you were able to work your way through it and to get back to where you are now, I think it, again, I try during with the podcast. I love to have people on to try to give people hope if they're going through things. So I think that story there, it gives people hope. So I think it's fantastic. And I look to somebody like you who's been successful, been through that as strong as you are, and you still had to deal with it. So a lot of it comes down to our mindsets. So,
well, you know, at my core, I'm lazy. I'm a procrastinator. I love eating garbagey food. If I didn't have people show up here at my house, I would probably rarely work out. I mean, I'm not self-motivated at all. These are all tricks. These are all stolen ideas from other people that I apply because the alternative is so horrible. I don't want to ever go back there again. You know what I mean? And it took decades to erase that guy. You know what I mean? To make that guy go, but that guy every once in a while, he'll pop up, but then there's so much knowledge and practice and discipline and work ethic that has kind of muted all that. That always supersedes being the lazy procrastinator, you know, that wants to eat cake. You know what I mean?
I feel you there. My kids used to call me the Cookie Monster years ago.
Yeah, a chocolate chip cookie, dude. I mean,
yeah,
whatever. But now I eat the gluten-free, high fiber, blah 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 blue ones, and they're that big. You know what I mean? They're tiny, teeny, or they're all plant-based. You know what I mean? And by the way, you need a release valve, right? You got all this discipline, but discipline creates so much pressure all the time, and so I'm eating clean breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm having a cookie. You know what I mean? And then you can go back to eating right. You know what I mean? Yeah, but some people are just, you know, they're on it 100%, right? I mean, there are people that are more disciplined than I am and eat cleaner than I do, and they're boring.
Yeah, I always tell people now about the Cookie Monster comment. You know, one of the best things for me about it is now when the cookies are gone, I don't get accused. Everybody always knew when they were gone, it was me. So that's the one benefit.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, right. So Tony, hearing all that, I love to ask people this, especially, you know, really successful people. You say yourself, you're not self-motivated. You look to others for motivation, things like that. I feel besides motivation, it's really important for all of us to have a why. What for you? What's your why? Why do you continue to do the things you do?
Well, one is very selfish and one is very selfless. I hate to see other people struggle with the same things I used to struggle with. And I have partaken in all the steps to how to go from point A to point Z, I guess. And I love to be able to share that. And I share that with the Power of Four. I shared it with P90X. I share it with my books. I share it with my live events here at my house. You know, anybody who will listen, who wants to come here and then when I see people, I will actually observe or witness people improving before my eyes, purely based on a little conversation or learning how to do an exercise right, or giving them a strategy on how to eat better, you know what I mean, or to quit a bad habit. And then I got my friend whose name I won't say because it doesn't, well, my people know who I hang out with. He struggled with booze a little bit. And, you know, he was an active guy, had a good metabolism, worked out fairly regularly, but he just didn't look and feel the way he wanted. I just said, give up the hooch for 30 days. Just give it up. So you could, I mean, come on, you're a grown man. Nobody else puts that stuff in your mouth other than you. You're the one, your hand, your mouth. Let's go. 30 days. And 30 days later, it was hard. I mean, it was hard. You could tell he would always like, oh my God, I was there with a club and I'm having club soda. All my friends having a good time. And I go, you're already a good time. Why do you need to be more of a good time? And then you feel like crap the other day and you look in the mirror and you look like crap too there. So it's math, man. Like, and now his buddies still give him a hard time, but he's 5 months into this lifestyle and he's shredded. You know what I mean? Like it just fell off. All that garbage just fell off of him. And so when I can have that kind of influence on people, that's number one, dude. That's the selfless part. My purpose is to help other people find theirs. And with that comes a joy, happiness that doesn't exist without it, right? A better connection to other people, willingness to kind of try things they've never done, travel more. All these different things start happening to people that they would never do if they're overweight and they're overwhelmed. You know what I mean? It's just different. The other one is I like nice things. I like to go to Jackson Hole. I like new skis. I'd like that. My car is 6 years old, but I mean, it's a nice car, so I keep it. It's only got 27,000 miles on it. But I mean, I like, my wife and I are looking at a ranch in Wyoming. I mean, I like to work my ass off because I didn't have any of that stuff growing up. I didn't have anything nice until I was 42 years old. You know what I mean? When I started working and making some decent money, I mean, I was hand to mouth. I lived in the same apartment for 21 and a half years. And I looked at a convalescent home and I just thought, well, I wonder if I'll just end up there in the end. You know what I mean? It was like reasonable. I was hoping it wouldn't, but very well could have. And so I just keep busting my butt. But my reason why, my purpose is true. You know what I mean? It's not to I'm not working at the nuclear reactor. I'm not making bombs. I'm not making porn. You know what I mean? I'm not abusing people at work. You know what I mean? I'm not some bonehead who's just making it for the bread. You know what I mean? I have a cool job where I get to do cool things and when I help people feel better about themselves. So in the meantime, I just want to get paid for it. And so I still, to this day, have dreams where everything I have is gone and I live in that apartment again. I'm back in that apartment 4 times a month in a dream, like, oh no, look, what? Oh no, I can't believe I'm back in this friggin' apartment, broke with a broken down car, dude. It's like, wake up in a sweat. You know what I mean? Because as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is a hired gun, I don't know whether Tono's going to hire me again. They want to pay me X, my contract's up. I want more. They might say no. Oops. Or, the supplement line, maybe, somebody will sue us because it has, prohydrolase in it and they're allergic. And then I have to go to, it's really scary. And then the power of 4, the employees that I have to pay, the jobs that they have to do, the insurance. I'm developing a program where people are going to do it home on their own, lifting heavy things and doing things that could cause injury. You know what I mean? And what if they sue me? It's stressful, man. It's stressful as hell. So, that's why there's mindfulness in my life. I mean, that's the one thing about getting sick in 2017. I meditate all the time now. I mean, I do breath exercises. Some of them are meditation-ish, but they're it's hard to tell the difference between a meditation and a breath exercise because breathing is part of both, right? But I do them when I'm a little freaked out or I have pain somewhere. Doesn't seem like that should do anything. Why would that do anything? I'm breathing all the time, right? But, my mind is flying around. The idea is to use breath as a means to shut this off, or at least attempt to shut this off, because it's the stress, the external forces are causing this to work overtime to either worry or freak out or have anxiety or depression or sadness, or maybe the conundrum of finding solutions for the external sources. So the breath is an internal source to help alleviate the stress. But most people will grab cigarette, caffeine, whatever, porn, whatever they're into to sort of, temporarily relieve it. When in reality, oxygen, the idea is to use the whole lungs, right? We're breathing here. The bottom half, the reason that COVID, dust, dirt, disease lives down here because nobody's doing those deep, full bottom of the lungs breaths. They haven't taken a deep breath since, they were being chased, you know what I'm saying? So mindfulness is a key part of my life now that didn't exist pre Ramsay Hunt,
Yeah, well, Tony, I mean, when back to your why, I'm so glad of your selfless part. I mean, for myself, my wife also, Cindy, like we both, obviously we utilized a lot of what you have taught, and it just, I want to thank you. I mean, it helped us immensely. I mean, my wife is down 83 pounds at this point. Yeah, she's killing it. Wow. I was 267 pounds, and I was on all kinds of 3 different medications, and now no medication, fit. And it's things like P90X and people like you that are you're transforming people and helping people. It's amazing. So definitely thanks for that.
Wow, man, great, good for you, dude.
Just want to ask, at this point, would you change anything?
How far back do you want me to go? This is my journey, man. This is who, I mean, if it was going poorly, if I was in a position right here, right now, I mean, sure, there were bumps in the road, and there were probably things that I could have done to mitigate them to some degree. I always wonder, well, I'd be more successful if, and still I would be, but I don't want to stress myself. If I work harder and I do more, will that create a higher level of stress? It will create Ramsay Hunt too. You know what I mean? So for me, yeah, there's probably some things like I hire some people who aren't very good. I need to fire them sooner. You know what I mean? Instead of keeping them around, stuff like that. Those are things mistakes that I make. My biggest thing is I'm having gone through what I've gone through, having gone from a C- student with a speech impediment that was the laziest guy in the world who loved to procrastinate to the guy I am now. I can't assume that everybody's had that journey, but I mean, when I look back and I go, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? It's like, but for some people getting out of bed is hard. You know what I mean? And people aren't wired like I'm wired. So I have to be more forgiving, but at the same time, if I've got you in my life and you're doing something for me and you're not knocking them out of the park, how long am I supposed to keep you around? That's my big thing. My thing is another issue for me is just communicating better with folks. And this is what I do for a living, communicating, but I've never been a boss, you know what I mean? And now I'm a boss. Before I was a hired gun with Beachbody for 25 years. Hey man, we want to do this. What do you think? Okay, cool. How long will it take to develop? Fine. Let's go through the rehearsal process. Let's go through the casting process. Let's go shoot it. Let's do some, voiceover later, wherever, that was needed. And then I'm done. And then the next project, it was the easiest thing in the world to do, really. But now it's like, oh, wow, I got to do all this stuff myself. I got to hire these people and I got to pay these people. And if it wasn't for my wife, Shauna, oh my God, it would not be going well. So she's a rock star in my life. Absolutely. Yeah. But for the most part, yeah, life goes like this, ding, 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 ding. But you just hope that when it does this, it's kind of going that way as opposed to kind of going that way. You know what I mean? And most people after high school or college, right? No, it can do this too. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. So I'm happy with that.
That's good, Tony. So now I want to give you a chance here for what you're doing now. I mean, is there your website, anything you want to tell people how, what they should go to now to find some of the newer things you're doing?
Well, I like that. I got multiple websites. So everybody sit back, grab a pen or your voice memo on your phone. I've been working with Tonal for a while now, a couple of years, and it's just an amazing product. It's just really, there's nothing like it. There's the mirror. With the mirror, you got to bring your stuff, right? The Tonal has these arms that go in every possible direction with all this science. They got flex mode and eccentric and chains mode and tracking and range. I mean, it's just all these trainers. It's just something. We don't compete with anybody, you know what I mean? And I think it's the reason why it's the fastest growing fitness company in the country right now. It's beating the pants out of everybody else, which is lucky me, that I'm on that platform. So, check me out at tonal.com. It's really an amazing fun. I mean, I'm right now at early stages of developing. I don't know how many this is for me. Number 8. for the platform, which is really cool. And then if you want to, and you're now a member of the Power of Four, go to powernationfitness.org, powernationfitness.org. And the first 7 days are free, and you go in there and you do workouts and you check it out, and you get to, plan all the routines. And then there's masterminds and live workouts and stuff. And it's sort of our, the project that Sean and I put together. We got a very, a skeleton crew that handles, we're on Uscreen and the streaming platform. We're on Apple TV and Fire TV and all the streaming services. So we have an app, and you can get the app and do it that way, or, do it on the site, powernationfitness.org. And then Power Life is mypowerlife.com, mypowerlife.com. And the protein powders, there's whey and there's chocolate. There's chocolate and vanilla, whey and plant-based. So there's variety. Our whey protein is from Irish cows. They're not from English cows or Brazilian cows or American cows or Russian, definitely not Russian cows. Yeah, the hell with those cows. And it's because it's just, there's no pesticides and garbage on what they eat. Somehow, I don't know where they are, but they're in some magical place. Mm-hmm. And then the plant-based is all like mung beans and sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, and I'm the plant-based guy. So, and then we have thing called Foundation 4, which if you have any kind of leaky gut or gut issues or irritable bowel syndrome or bloating or gas or blah, 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 it's magnesium, it's potassium, it's sun fiber, it's probiotics, prebiotics, 2 servings of vegetables. It's just this amazing, and I both of all that every day. And then we have Performance, which is a pre-workout formula. And then we have sort of the fruit version of Foundation 4 called Phytonutrients, which is all fruit based, super nutrients. And then we have other SKUs, for digestion, for weight loss, for blah, blah, blah. So there's 12, there's 3 new ones coming, which is really cool. An electrolyte formula, a anti-inflammatory balm, which is really cool. It's a topical thing, obviously. And and then we're looking at bars. Bars are tricky because, they only have a shelf life of so long. So you got to come up with something that is all natural, no crap in it, organic and all that kind of thing. So that's a little trickier, but somebody's banging out my yard. I don't know. I'm dying to know who that is. So mypowerlife.com. And then last but not least is my website, which is TonyHortonLife.com. TonyHortonLife.com. And that's just everything. So you can go right there and get it all right there, especially all the live events. Like if you had known about that, you could have come to Paragon 2 weeks ago. We had people from all over the world that were here, 5-day event. It was supposed to be our last one, but it was so amazing. And people were so, taken aback by how much it changed them that's just like, man, maybe we'll have another one at the end of the year or early 2023. Hard to say. But then we have our ski retreat every year in Jackson Hole. So if you're a skier or a snowboarder or not a skier or snowboarder, just come and you become one in the end. There's a great story of this guy, Japanese gentleman. He just wanted to do the yoga. And I go, what are you going to do all day? Because we do yoga in the morning. We do yoga at the ski. What are you going to do? I don't know. I'll kind of walk around town. So I put him with one of the best ski instructors in Jackson Hole. And now he's a full-blown skier. Skis diamonds and 4 years later. So it's a very transformational, but it's not super intense. It's just mellow in the morning, mellow after skiing, and then just having fun and eating and skiing in a beautiful place, Jackson Hole, if you haven't been there. So sign up for that because we always typically sell out of that one. I mean, it won't be till next January. So this time, that's me, man. That's all me.
And I will look to include in the description a lot of the links you just mentioned, make it easy for people to click on them. So that'll be good. Please check out Tony. A lot of great stuff, and I can attest to it. I've done a lot of it firsthand myself, doing it currently. So it's great. And Tony, I just wanted to tell you too, with you on the line, when I started this podcast back in January, I as a goal, I made what I call a someday list. And on that list is people that I said, someday I'm going to interview that person. You are the first person from that list that I've been able to interview. So I want to thank you for that. Because I mean, for me, one of the most generous gifts people can give is their time. And I can't thank you enough for agreeing to give a guy like me just starting out an opportunity to speak with you. So for that, I am definitely sincerely grateful. So thank you.
My pleasure, man. And, you know, you got a good review. So my people kind of looked into who you were and the kind of podcast that you have and thought it would be a good mix. And, you know, I had some time today. And so I you know, we sussed you out, as they say, and it proved right, man. You're a good man and good questions. You didn't cut me off and talk about yourself. There's too many podcasts where it becomes more about the interviewer than the interviewee, which is like, whatever. See, obviously they're not ready for prime time yet, but dude, it was a lot of fun. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. They don't want to hear about me. They want to hear about what you guys can tell them, all my guests. So that's definitely great. So everyone, please check out Tony Horton. I mean, if you haven't heard him, come out from under the rock you've been living under and seek him out, because it is worth it and it will change your life. So, thanks, everyone.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.